Good evening, everyone. You're watching Awaz News. I'm Kubra Ali, and I'll be taking you to top news across Canada.
Northern Ontario First Nations call for help amid mental health crisis. Michael Garron Hospital under Code Grey following data security incident. Man facing multiple charges and sex assault investigation involving Oshawa daycare. Hate-motivated investigation underway after assault removal of pro-Israel posters in Toronto. Former Toronto high school teacher who had relationship with the student sentenced to house arrest. Police in Jamaica investigating death of Ajax, Ontario man found with gunshot wounds. Video shows dramatic crash on Toronto highway that got driver jail time.
Those were the headlines, and now let's look into the details.
Police say an 82-year-old man who lived at an Oshawa, Ontario home that functioned as a daycare is facing multiple charges in sexual assault investigation. Dun Regional Police say they began investigating in September after reports of an alleged sexual assault in the mid-1980s. They say a complainant came forward. Investigators have since been able to identify other alleged victims. Police say the investigation found reports of alleged sexual assaults that occurred between 1967 and 1991. They say the man that was charged lived in a home that functioned as a daycare in Oshawa. Police are urging anyone who had children at the home during those years to come forward if they have concerns. The man has been charged with gross indecency, assault, sexual assault, and sexual interference with a person under the age of 14. A car's cameras captured the heart-stopping seconds leading up to a dramatic crash on Gardiner Expressway that sent a taxi flying and seriously injured two people. Footage so obviously dangerous that a Toronto judge sentenced the driver to 9 months in jail. Jersey Bukas, who pleaded guilty to 1 count of dangerous driving causing bodily harm, told the court he was rushing home in his BMW on Sunday in January 2022 because of a family emergency. The Justice Apple Newton-Smith said there is no justification for driving that dangerously. The video shows a busy highway full of cars taking people about their business on a bright and sunny Sunday afternoon. Watching the video, Mr. Bugas' driving is so obviously dangerous that the accident appears to be inevitable. It is only a matter of luck that there were not more victims and that no one was killed, Newton-Smith said in her October ruling. At 2:15 p.m., Bukas made a sudden and dangerous lane change, passing a vehicle on the right before flipping in the air 5 times. The video shows the BMW clip a taxi in the right lane, whose rear hatch immediately buckles as the car pivots towards the guardrails on the right side of the Gardiner near the exhibition grounds. The taxi goes flying and rolls 5 times before stopping on the other side of the highway as nearby drivers screech to a halt. The driver of the taxi suffered a hand and head injury and still has limited mobility in his hand, Newton-Smith wrote. The passenger had head, shoulder, and knee injuries and lost sight in one eye. In a brief file with the court, Bukas apologized and said he was not the kind of person who purposely goes out and tries to hurt others. I accept responsibility for a foolish error I had made and at the time did not factor in that the speed I was driving would constitute such a public hazard. I simply thought that I would be able to speed home to resolve an issue that was pressing, he said. That pressing issue was a family member with a drinking problem, the judge wrote, but she did not accept that as an excuse. She sentenced the driver to 9 months in prison with a 5-year driving prohibition. She declined to order probation and said any financial penalty she prescribed would be deducted from any insurance penalty. The sentence is on the tougher end, said Ches Speaker of Friends and Families for Safe Streets, pointing to other cases where a driver's actions resulted in death but didn't necessarily result in jail time. Several First Nations and health officials in Northern Ontario are asking for help after declaring a state of emergency over mental health crisis across their territories. Cat Lake First Nation Chief Russell Wesley said 188 people of the 500 who live in his community are part of a mental wellness program, but they need more support. He said the overall health of the community is poor. He said 36 people have died since he became chief in July 2020, with their deaths being attributed to a variety of causes, ranging from cancer and diabetes to suicides and drug overdoses. A 24-year-old man in Cat Lake recently died by suicide, the chief said, with staff members having to respond. These are common occurrences, he said. New Democrat Deputy Leader Saul Mamakwa tabled a motion in the Ontario legislature Thursday with the First Nations support asking the government to recognize colonialism as a social determinant of health. In the House, Mamakwa asked the government in question period if it would support the motion. Government House Leader Paul Calandra said it would not. An integrated healthcare hub designed and controlled by First Nations would go a long way to improving lives, said Carolyn Lidstone-Jones, CEO of the Indigenous Primary Health Care Council. We are not seeing the success factors like we should with the mainstream health systems, and many times our own services were benchmarked and compared to that, she said. Unfortunately, we do see deaths, and unfortunately, many times we have sat at the tables where deaths should have been prevented, but unfortunately, they weren't. Wesley said both the provincial and federal governments need to step up. It's the unwillingness of the parties to work together that's a hindrance to solving all of these problems that we have, he said. It causes conflict and colonialism. A former Toronto secondary school teacher who was found to have carried out a relationship with a female student exchanging more than 2,000 pages worth of text messages with a girl has dodged jail time according to a sentencing decision released this month. Colin Ramsay, a former high school teacher in Toronto, admitted to carrying out a relationship with an underage student that at times was sexual in nature at an Ontario Court of Justice (OCJ) trial in September 2022. He ultimately pleaded guilty to one count of communicating with a person under the age of 18 for the purpose of sexual exploitation. The conviction usually comes with a minimum 6-month jail sentence, yet in a sentencing hearing held last month, OCJ Justice John McInnes ordered Ramsay to complete a sentence of house arrest to be carried out for 2 years less a day. The evidence presented satisfies me that Mr. Ramsay is genuinely remorseful and chastened by the fact he is subject of criminal proceedings, McInnes wrote in his decision. When reached for comment, the Toronto District School Board told Awaz News it does not comment on matters after they appear before the courts. At the time of Ramsay's arrest, the district said he was immediately placed on leave, and according to the court document, he is no longer employed as a teacher in the city. Ramsay, who was about 45 years old at the time of the offense, taught photography and yearbook classes to students in grades 11 and 12 at a local high school, according to an agreed statement of facts. The specific school withheld from the decision in an effort to protect the victim's identity. The victim referred to only as YP within the document, and Ramsay first met in the school's hallway when she was in grade 10. Her and her peers would often spend time in Ramsay's classroom, going so far as to forego their actual classes to hang out with him, the decision states. The report sparked a joint investigation by the Toronto Police Service (TPS) and the Children's Aid Society of Toronto, and on June 10, 2020, Ramsay was placed into custody and released on an undertaking. In handing down his sentence, J.P. McInnes stated that, unlike many people who commit this offense, Ramsay was not trolling the internet to attract and entice vulnerable children and adolescents. However, his use of these telecommunications was equivalently pernicious, he continued. It is abundantly clear that the comparatively frictionless medium of text messaging let Mr. Ramsay ramp up the frequency and intimacy of his interaction with YP to test increasingly sexualized interaction with her, and by these means to gradually inculcate a sexualized overtone to his relationship with YP, the justice wrote in his decision. While McInnes wrote that he is satisfied that Ramsay has shown remorse, the justice found that the teacher did display an intent to eventually have sexual contact with YP. In rendering this decision, the justice cited Ramsay's duty as a caregiver to his younger brother, who depends on him for day-to-day care. A sentencing of house arrest not only spared the brother, whom the justice called blameless, but it would also save community resources. In a close case, this circumstance was the tipping point, the decision notes. Police in Jamaica are investigating the death of an Ajax, Ontario businessman who investigators say was found with fatal gunshot wounds in Clarendon. The Jamaica Constabulary Force said the body of 43-year-old Merrick Aries was found on Welcome Beach in Maypen, Clarendon on October 24th. In a news release, police said Aries was found at around 9:45 a.m. by a passerby who stumbled upon the body and alerted authorities. On their arrival, the body was seen lying along the shoreline with gunshot wounds, the news release read. Police said detectives with the Clarendon Police Division are probing the circumstances surrounding the death. An assault in downtown Toronto that took place after a suspect was confronted for allegedly removing pro-Israel posters is being investigated as a possible hate crime. Toronto police said they received a call for an assault in the area of Bay Street and Richmond Street West on October 25th. According to investigators, a victim was in front of her nearby residence when she saw the suspect removing materials in support of Israel from phone posts. After the victim asked the accused what she was doing, police said the suspect asked the victim if she was Jewish. The victim started to record the incident as the suspect was disposing the materials, police said. At that point, police said the accused was assaulted. The victim suffered minor injuries and the suspect was arrested on site. Selena Musiu Chang, 40, of Toronto has been charged with assault in connection with the incident, which is being investigated as a hate crime. Toronto Police top brass has said hate crimes in the city have increased since start of Israel-Hamas war. Chief Myron Dimkew said last week that the daily average of hate-related calls for service increased by 132% since the Israel-Hamas war began on October 7th. Toronto Police said the Deputy Chief Lauren Pogue will provide remarks later today on demonstrations regarding the Israel-Hamas war expected to take place in Toronto. Michael Garron Hospital says it is actively investigating a data security incident which it was made aware of early this week. We are actively investigating and assessing the impact of the incident with the support of third-party experts, the hospital said in a statement. The statement did not say exactly what occurred, but it did say that there are no known impacts to clinical applications or patient care services at the moment. The hospital said it has initiated Code Grey, a term which generally is used when there is a loss of key infrastructure at hospital in order to facilitate the coordination of resources and business continuity. Out of an abundance of caution, our teams are in the process of planning and implementing additional proactive measures to safeguard our data and information systems while the investigation is underway, the statement said. The hospital said it will provide more information as it becomes available. While it's yet clear exactly what happened at Michael Garron Hospital, healthcare facilities have increasingly been the target of cyber attacks. The Scarborough Health Network was the victim of a data security breach last year. Then in December, Toronto's Hospital of 6 Children's Sick Kids was the subject of a ransomware attack which delayed imaging results and resulted in longer wait times for patients. Humber River Hospital was also the subject of a ransomware attack in 2021.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kubra Ali. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.